Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to a Breakfast Club stream for Game Week 5. I am joined by Star of FPL Wire, Late Riser, or Pranil, aka Late Riser, as most of you probably know him. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Not sure if the star award holds. I'm sitting at 4.6 million in
For
terms of
now.
all ranks.
I mean, that's kind of perfect for your name, right? Late Riser. You know,
Yeah,
this is the
it,
story now.
it, it's just a brand exercise.
Exactly, yeah. It's all about the branding. So we're going to go through, as always, on this. We're going to go through both our teams. No fancy wild cards like as last night, unfortunately. Not yet. Anyway, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then we're going to talk. Well, we'll probably touch on kind of Spurs players, De Bruyne, goals, imminent table, all the usual stuff. And I'll keep an eye on the chat as well to see if we can answer any questions from there as we go. So we'll just jump straight into, I think, and pull up your team. So what transfer have you made this week?
I was sitting on a triple city midfield and listening to the news about De Bruyne. I was surprised Pep gave us a clear answer. He could have used it to his advantage in the game. And I didn't have Mo Salah in my team. So, just as soon as I got the news, for the next hour, I was fiddling in my team and started to overthink. Maybe I should get Son and maybe I should get Mane, and so I can, upgrade Podence or something of that sort. And I was like, if you're not going to get Salah right now, you're going to continue overthinking this move. So I just made the Salah move then and there so that I stopped myself from overthinking.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I've had Salah since the start, and like I know there is obviously arguments to go with or without, but I just think over the next few weeks, like he's going to be a pretty good cat. Like he's going to be. He's already been most captain most weeks anyway, but he's actually a good option the next couple of weeks as well. Maybe not for this week. We'll talk about that in a sec. You've got the captain on Werner, but you're thinking of changing that, right?
I was set on the Werner until this morning, but I'm having those last minute jitters right now. I feel like it's a perfect week to captain a differential because there's no standout captain. You have Spurs versus West Ham, which is a standout fixture on paper, but I don't think it's as easy as people are expecting it to be, given the form of West Ham and their form defensively. So, if anybody is feeling a left field captain, I think such a week where there's no standard captain is the best option. But I'm dilly-dallying between Salah and Werner because I don't know if I trust Lampard enough to play Werner striker. I feel like if Werner's playing striker, he's got a haul in him. But I don't know if I trust Lampard enough.
Do you how like? For Werner in particular, not necessarily for this week, what's he going to have to do to stay in your team? Like, does he have to get some points this week? Like, is this like last chance saloon for him for you?
He needs to do a lot because he does have good fixtures after this game week as well. I was just looking at the fixtures. They have United next, and we aren't really doing too much defensively. But after that, they have Burnley, Sheffield, and Newcastle. So they've got a good bunch of fixtures. And against Trent, this might be the good time to invest in Chelsea or Werner because the fixtures are there. Ziyech and Pulisic are coming back, so you might see the actual team play. My thing with the Southampton game is. We know I spoke a lot about the High Line, but I don't think Saints are a team that traditionally sit to defend. They're not going to park the bus. So I'm expecting a fairly open game. So I feel like there might be a few chances in this game. But Werner's going to do a lot because there's a certain Aguero who might play 30 minutes today and he might be fit. And I always like going in early on Aguero. That's one of the reasons I haven't moved in on Kane because I'm expecting majority of the traffic to go towards Kane. And people who are on Kane aren't going to move to Aguero immediately. So I'm waiting to see if there's a slight move there, getting in on Aguero early.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right about the Kane thing because the fixtures are so good for the next four. No one's going to move from Kane to Aguero, at least not until like what game week 10 or something like that. Whenever Spurs fixtures go bad. The thing I like about Aguero, I mean, I know you like to move on him this weekend to get him in. Just see him. Is that enough?
Yeah, just see him. Yeah. That's enough. That's enough. I trust him too much. I love him too much. So yeah, that's the thing with Aguero. But actually, so why have it? I have one free transfer to use still, but I'm thinking of banking it and not moving in on Son or Son on Kane just yet because there's so many explosive differentials in the game right now. There's Mane, there's Pulisic, there's Aguero. Sterling still deserves a chance. So I want to see. There's Bale. I want to see how Spurs play with Bale in that team. Does that mean that Son is pushed a little further back and not as close to the goal as he is? So I just feel like waiting this week, assessing what's going to happen, and then make some big moves.
Nice, yeah. I mean, a lot of people have gone straight to the Spurs boys. So I do think you're right about I think if you've got them in knowing that what they've done is probably not going to continue, then that's okay. Because I think the fixtures warrant, maybe having one or even both. But I think if you're getting them in thinking they're going to carry on with the amount of returns they've had so far, there's going to be a lot of disappointment. Although this is probably the hardest fixture of the next four on paper. But yeah, I still think they're good options. I'll show you my team in a minute. I've bought Son in. But yeah, I agree. I think...
No doubt about it.
Yeah, but making them out like they're the best players in the game right now, definitely. I'm not sure.
I'm just hoping that West Ham are able to, make sure they don't concede more than 1 or 2 goals, and I see that as a possibility. And Spurs not exploding. That's why I feel like just waiting a week.
Yeah, fair enough. Let me just ask you for two more things about your team before I bring mine up. So, one, you're on triple Wolves, which a couple of game weeks ago everyone was looking at, and now people are panicking a bit about Wolves' attack. Which, to be fair, I mean, I bought Jimenez in for Fulham, and I mean, I know he's not the kind of player that gets 2 or 3 goals very regularly, but Wolves in general I thought looked pretty poor against a pretty poor Fulham side. What's your thinking on them going forward?
Yeah, I agree. I actually have a 0 million in the bank right now with that one transfer. If I had 0.4 million in the bank, I'd have moved to Barkley, because I don't even know if Podence is nailed enough. He's fighting for a spot with Neto and Traore, so we don't know if he's going to be playing regularly. So I would have moved out, but I feel like I won't be surprised to do a sort of mini wildcard next week, take a -4, and I feel like the Leeds game suits Wolves, because Wolves are used to sitting back, Leeds are used to keeping possession, dominating possession, and Wolves like playing against teams that like to hold possession, because countering is what their specialty is. So I don't mind holding on to them for this week. I won't be surprised if we get a Wolves result on Monday.
Well, fingers crossed for you then. You got the 3 there. Let me one more thing about your team, and then we'll move on to mine. And this is a player I have as well, so it'd be interesting to get your thoughts. Is Foden. So some people, there's basically like a different viewpoint, right? When De Bruyne gets injured, there's 2 trains of thought. One side is, well, De Bruyne's out, that makes Man City a worse team. Therefore, the likes of Foden, not quite a good option. But then other people will think, well, Aguero might not start. De Bruyne is now out. That makes Foden, Mahrez much more likely to play. And they're still good players, so they're still going to be able to get points. What's your thinking on Foden? Do you prefer him with or without De Bruyne?
I prefer him with De Bruyne. There's no 2 ways about that, because De Bruyne does make that team better. But in terms of nailedness, you have that slight advantage where Foden is more likely to play. I mentioned it on the Wire podcast this week, where I don't think Foden and De Bruyne are a good fit together in midfield, because De Bruyne has to do a lot of the defensive work. I feel like Foden has found his spot in the front 3, which adds to a little balance, and that's what I'm expecting this game week as well. I'm expecting Bernardo Silva to replace De Bruyne in midfield and Foden to play in the front 3 instead of either Torres or Mahrez. That's what I'm expecting.
That's what I don't know if I'm well, I guess maybe with De Bruyne out that is an expectation. I'm definitely hoping that's what happens though, and I still think they can give Arsenal a pretty good game even without De Bruyne and Aguero. So I mean
they won a league without De Bruyne, so we shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and they did much better without De Bruyne than they did without Laporte actually. So that's a good point. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that game goes, because obviously Pep and Arteta know each other so well. I just wonder whether they're going to just massively try and outthink each other, like to the point where it's detrimental. What do you think?
That's Pep's problem, right? He overthinks in games that are a little big, but I feel like this will help City develop some sort of style of play, because I think in the Leeds game they were too dependent for the past 2 weeks, are going to be playing and starting for sure. I fancy City to still win by a couple of goals.
Fingers crossed. All right, I'll put my team up on the screen now. So this is a -8 I've taken, right? So I went early with my transfers, like really early. Like I did it on Monday after game week 4. So nearly 2 weeks ago now I made my transfer, which I did Shaw and Adams out, Che Adams, for Morpay and Ayling. There was like a 0.3 swing on doing that move early, and I knew I definitely didn't want Shaw long term. Adams, do you know what? I may have kept Adams if the money wasn't going down, but he's just been a frustrating own. So I did that move early, and obviously with De Bruyne out, I could have just benched him, but I don't know. I just didn't want to do that move, because I felt like this was the week where I was going to captain him before game week 11, and if he wasn't going to play, I just thought I'd get rid. So I've got Son in for -8.
That's a good move. That's a good move. I see nothing wrong with that. But I'd be sitting in your position. I think you're right on the edge. I mean, wild card would tempt you because you're throwing away 8 points at this stage. If there are a few moves that you're looking, changes that you're thinking of making around the edges, I'd be tempted to wild
Yeah,
card.
I don't. The thing is, I don't know if there is enough moves. But then I don't know. I've got this. I'm just going back and forth on how many moves am I ever going to have to make, right? I'm obviously never going to let this team, well, at least the plan is never to let this team get so bad that it really, really, really needs a wild card, right? I'm always going to be thinking ahead. So, like, if I look at this team now, if I wild card, I save 8 points straight away. So, even if we get to game week 18, 19 and things are really bad, I can just spend the points then, right? Instead.
Yeah, and then psychology is going to play its own game with you because if you're spending 8 points -8, you're thinking in your head, I don't need to wildcard for the next 2-3 weeks because I've just taken some big hits.
Well,
So,
that's the
so you
thing
need
though.
to.
I don't know because I already think I've wildcarded yet. I'm still left with Foden, which look, I don't think Foden's necessarily a bad option for this game week or the next game week. But longer term, I'm not someone like you that can maybe put up with Foden being benched and waiting for the hauls. I don't like doing that. So already I have that in the back of my mind about Foden. Jimenez, I think I could take or leave at this point. I do think there's still a chance he ticks over. Like I wouldn't write Wolves off just yet, but they're not look good. So that's 2 players straight away, plus the 8 points. And then I would get Kane in, I think, and captain him.
Yeah, it sounds good to me because what my read is this season is whichever game week we're in, there's just so many options in FPL that every time you're thinking of making a big wildcard, you're going to sell some really good players because there's always that many good options, which makes it trickier. In a way, it's more fun as well. But I think spending 8 points, you're right on the edge. I'd have probably done it in your position.
I do you know, I'm still thinking about doing it, and people are going to think it's a panic, but I've been thinking about my wildcard team the whole international break. I've obviously missed some price rises, like I missed one of Son's price rises, and I've missed one for Kane, but I think that's it. I don't think I've missed any others. So in terms of team value, I'm only down like maybe 0.2 million. And it's not really a panic. I could literally reel off the team right now that I would go for. I'd probably swap Ayling to Dallas. I think I may have made a mistake getting Ayling, although I don't think there's so much difference that it's a massive mistake.
I don't either.
Yeah, but the only thing for me is if I want Martinez in goal, which I think is probably the keeper to get, just because I prefer Leeds defenders to Villa ones. I can't have more pay. I'd have to get Antonio in. Or what do you think? Right, the thing for me comes down to Pulisic versus Grealish. That would be the decision.
Yeah, I feel like both are good picks. If I had to pick one right now, I'd pick Grealish because we know what we're getting, and Grealish just seems like that pick that I was looking at the Aston Villa fixtures, and right until game week 15, their fixture run is phenomenal. So you're getting a Martinez as well as Grealish who are going to be set and forgets in your team for 10 odd game weeks. That sounds like a good proposition to me. Pulisic is more kind of player where you play the fixtures, get him for a hot run of 3 good games, etc., etc. But and you don't even mind him playing against a stronger team because he's going to be the outlet on the counter. But for the longer term, I prefer Grealish as a pick.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. I mean, for the team that I've got in my head, if I go for Grealish, I've basically got $1 million in the bank, which I don't have to spend. I mean, I could change size. So, what's your thinking with sizes? I mean, I keep seeing rumours about him getting dropped, but this is fully just FPL managers creating this speculation. I've not seen anything from any journalist to ever suggest that Saiss is at risk of dropping. Have you?
Yeah, nothing from the journalists. It's just I've been spending some time on the Wolves forums because I was trying to assess whether Podence is good to go this week. And the Wolves fans are actually not that bad. They've been pretty accurate with the predictions. So just about 30-40% of them have Saiss not starting in their teams, and they've got options in that position. So, and my thinking with Saiss is I never like switching my defenders. I don't like spending transfers there, which is why if I was to wildcard, I'd get rid of that headache. That's all.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I don't. If I went for Grealish, I could upgrade him to Semedo or Chilwell, which would be tempting. Let me ask you a question then. This is kind of about wildcard, and to be fair, this has been a pretty big talking point since Alisson got injured, right? So last night on Black Box, Mark was saying, double Liverpool defence still the way to go. Still a differential, if anything, right now. What do you think about double Liverpool defence going forward? Set and forget?
Completely agree. I think I'm looking at double Liverpool mid next week. I feel like Liverpool now is the time to jump on Liverpool. They have Sheffield and West Ham at home for the next two games, and their fixtures are pretty decent in the long run as well. And I feel like Henderson is back. I spoke about it in the Wire pod as well. Henderson is back, who's going to add some bite in that midfield. He sort of orchestrates the press that Liverpool have, and Matip is back as well. And Gomez hasn't been in good form, so that's one other position taken care of. And I feel like Trent is too good a player to be in poor form for too long. So I'm bullish on the Liverpool double defense as well. I think against Trent, I think people are making a mistake jumping out of the Liverpool defense and investing too much money in attack. I'd hold patience with those two.
Interesting. Like, so if you were a wild, because you've only got one in your team, so if you were wild
Yeah.
carding again right now, you get two, would you?
No, because that depends from manager to manager, right? Because my play style is to invest in attack, and I'm looking at getting Salah and Mane. I actually like Mane as an explosive differential in the game because I like captaining slightly lower owned players. So there'll be a few games where I fancy Mane, I'll just captain him. So that's the reason. It depends on your play style as a manager. That's why. But I'd be tempted to go Liverpool double defense. I think it's a good move. It's a very shrewd move at this point of the season.
And it is literally. I mean, if you're not someone that wants to spend money on defensive transfers, then it doesn't get much easier than just having those two in your team week in week out. Like I think a lot of the wild cards I've seen have been kind of one Liverpool player, someone like Sice or Chilwell, whoever it might be, and then Mitchell's still in, even though he's probably going to lose his place soon, and then lots of like Lampteys and Ayling and Dallas. So do you think the
Yeah.
likes of Leeds and Brighton can see you through without having to make too many transfers?
Yeah. I think Ailing, Lamptey, Dallas are all good picks in the 4.5 bracket. I also like Taylor still. I think Me's going to come back soon. So Burnley defense, you know what you expect in terms of getting a clean sheet just against the weaker teams. And he's there for that job exactly, and he performs that job really well. I feel like a very underrated price bracket is the 5.5 million defender bracket as well. We got three standard options in the bracket in terms of Regolion, Chilwell, as well as Semedo. So you take your pick, all three good options as well. I actually fancy Reguilon the most because Spurs have some good fixtures from a defensive standpoint as well. And I liked his positioning against United before the international break. So I fancy him.
Yeah, I really like him too. Like we obviously haven't seen a huge amount from him yet in a Spurs shirt, but the thinking I'm kind of having is obviously predictable. Maybe is the wrong word, but we in the past when Davis has been there, we know how Spurs are going to play. It's the right fullback that's going to attack. Now I feel like they
Yeah.
can mix it up a little bit because there's no worries about him not being able to get back. So do you think he's going to maybe even relieve some of the pressure from the right side? What do you think?
Yeah, and he's the reason Son is a much better pick this year because Son is a lot closer to the goal, right? So, yeah, I like it. I think, and plus they have additional. They used to play two in mid last season. Now they are playing a 4-3-3 because they've let go of Ali as a number 10, so they have a much steadier midfield with additional protection offered by Hodberg, which allows this entire shift in tactics. So I like him as a pick.
Nice, yeah. So if you're going, so let's say you're going for someone. There's lots of people wildcarding right now. You're going
Yeah.
for one 5.5, Chilwell, Semedo, or Regulon. Who you picking?
Uh,
Put you on the
I
spot.
wouldn't pick Semedo. I'll either go Chilwell or Regolium.
I think for me the problem that not the problem with Chilwell, but Chelsea just bugging me at the moment because they're just not settled. There's like injuries here or there. There's players that are not quite fit, and I feel like it will click at some point. Mendy will be fit. Thiago Silva's not playing. I don't think this week either.
Yeah, but that's because he's just traveled from
Yeah, no,
Brazil,
no.
and Lampard's being overly cautious because he has a Champions League game midweek. So
Yeah, no, I get. It's just like just waiting for them to settle, and then I want to go invest in Chelsea. So yeah, I think Regulon. I like that. I like that shout. It's a good one. Yeah, let's leave my team because as people said in the chat, I may not even wildcard. We'll see. I've got Son captain instead of Salah. What do you think about that?
I'd have gone Salah captain personally between the two because I don't know if I trust Son against a good West Ham defense just yet.
What about Salah
Uh,
versus a very good Everton defense, or are you just backing the attack in that case?
I just back the attack in that case, right? I feel, I mean, both are good defenses. Everton is slightly better defense, you'd say. But with Liverpool attack, there's no doubts, right? They've been the prime attacking team in the country for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and I just prefer. And I was actually talking to a West Ham fan, and they did this with Traore as well in terms of the right-sided centre back as well as the wing back, shutting down the wings with Rice having a free-flowing role. And I expect them to do that with Son as well, because they'll be aware of the threat that he's possessing. And I feel like Salah is a better player compared to Son. So when it's this close, Salah also has penalties as well. So that makes me lean towards Salah between the two.
Yeah, I'm pretty close between the two. I had it on De Bruyne all week basically until he got injured, and then I thought I would just default to Salah captain. But I don't know. I'm like you with Werner and Salah. I'm kind of switching between the two, so I'll decide on that later. Let's just quickly. I mean, we've kind of already touched on Man City a little bit, but what do you make of them as a whole? Like, obviously, we're still waiting for everyone to get back fit. Aguero, Jesus, De Bruyne, obviously now as well. Do you think they're missing David Silva? Because their expected goals so far are halved per game what they were last season. But obviously, it's only 3 matches, and for 2 of them, they didn't have Aguero or Jesus. Do you think there's anything to be worried about there?
No, I'm not worried about them at all. I think they will click into gear very, very soon, and they have been the best attacking force in the country for the past 3 years, and I expect them to be top 2 attack-wise this season as well. It's just a little bit of unsharpness. I also thought the Leeds game, they were very, very tired in the second half of the game, which is why there was a lot of bad decision making. I actually thought they played really well in the first half and could have scored 2 or 3 in the first half itself, but it didn't work out, and I expect that to change very soon.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think. I mean, that.
Are you worried? Are you worried about them at all?
I don't know if worried is the word, but I feel like I would be okay maybe not owning them for a few weeks, because I'm not looking to captain any of them at the moment. I think Salah's got Sheffield United at home, then West Ham at home, I think it is, in game week 6 and 7. So I just captain him. I you know me, I don't mind captaining the obvious pick. I'm not looking for a massive differential right now or anything like that. So Salah's captain anyway. So even if I had De Bruyne or Sterling, they wouldn't be captain for me. And Mahrez and Foden, there's just so many, like, when I can reel off like so Grealish, Pulisic, Son, all these players that you know are going to start. Pulisic, we'll have to wait and see if he's fully fit, but they're going to start when they're fit, and they're going to tick over. I just don't know. Like, at the end of last season, it was a little bit different because Mahrez and Foden, there was a lot more rotation in general. There's obviously the 5-sub thing as well. And City had really, really, really good fixtures for like 5 or 6 game weeks in a row. Whereas now it's a little bit mixed, and I just don't feel the same kind of want to go for Foden and Mahrez and players like that.
That's fair enough. I mean, with Sterling, Mahrez is always going to be a rotation risk, right? So that's based on your risk appetite. But I think Sterling had his best FPL season when De Bruyne wasn't playing, and he's going to continue scoring the goals. He looked pretty good against Leeds as well. So I feel like he's still in that bracket of a premium midfielder, and he's going to compete with the likes of Salah, Mane, Son as well. So I'm not too worried about Sterling as a pick. And then there is Aguero. I think people need to pay closer attention because Aguero as a differential is the most explosive asset this game has to offer. So you need to, if you're the likes that likes to go for a differential, there isn't going to be a better time than a low-owned Aguero. And I feel like we might get the chance. And you mentioned that Liverpool play Sheffield and West Ham at home, right? Spurs, City have exactly the same fixtures. They have West Ham and Sheffield just away, and I don't think it matters too much home away for the next 2 weeks. That's why I'm looking at them closely.
Yeah, fair enough. I think for me, it's just I'm just going to captain Salah. That's the only thing. It's not that it's a fair point, but it's not that I'm really against Man City or I think they're going to be bad. I don't know. I've just got Salah down as the captain, which, I mean, I don't necessarily buy the whole, if you're not going to captain them, you shouldn't own them. I don't agree with that, but at the same time, if it's harder to get them in my team right now, I'm not going to panic as much because I'm not captain, if that makes sense. But if you've got them, like I like Sterling. I've said it all along. If De Bruyne didn't have penalties, Sterling would be the better option. You're just really relying on City getting on the penalties with De Bruyne, I think.
Yeah. And I don't think Sterling's looked too bad. I think he's looked very threatening in the past 2 games as well. So I'm not too worried as an owner.
Cool. Let's finish on Spurs before we quickly touch on the goals imminent table. So again, we've already kind of touched on Spurs. You're saying, I mean, I agree. I think they are good options for the next 4. Not the ultimate differential maybe, but a bit like Aguero. We know what Bale can do. Maybe we haven't seen it for a while, especially in the Premier League. He's 9.5 million, so he's fairly cheap. You got any interest in going there early, do you think, with Bale?
It's exactly the reason why I'm saving that one transfer and going into next week with two transfers, because I don't know what to expect from Spurs. I don't know how they'll play. Now earlier, Lucas Moura or Lamela were support from either Kane or Son. So I want to know what happens against West Ham. I want to judge that game closely when the three of them are playing together and then take a call. I don't know what to expect. I don't have an answer at the moment, which is why I'm waiting.
Fair enough. But in general, like we were kind of touching on earlier, generally you think Spurs quite an exciting time to get on them. I mean, they've made some good
Yeah.
transfers, right? Like you mentioned, Højbjerg, Reguilon, Bale. There's not really much to dislike with them now.
No, I like them. But with them, they're always going to be relying on counter attacks, right? That's the kind of game that they like to play. So I want to see them against deep defenses. Yeah, they had a good game against Newcastle, but I want to see how they do against a deep lying defense for another game. And West Ham is a pretty decent defense these days. So let's see what happens.
And then there's still 3 good fixtures to jump on after that if you want to. So yeah, cool. We'll see how they go this week. It's going to be an interesting week after the international break. So there'll be some tired legs, some non-tired legs. So yeah, we'll have to. I mean, it'll be a lot of reassessing because it's been a pretty weird season so far. Let's just jump onto the goals imminent table just to show it off before we finish. So there's some kind of key names on it. Kevin De Bruyne is on here. So he's only scored once so far from the penalty spot. But his XG 1.43. He's had five? He's only had 5 shots in the box. I think a lot of reason he's on here is because of that penalty actually. But obviously it doesn't matter because he's injured now. But your boy's on there, Werner.
Yep.
But he's
I like to see that.
Yeah, like but 0.93 expected goals for 4 games is pretty low.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's because he's been pushed onto the wing, right? Tammy's been starting the last few games. I actually liked what I saw of him in the first game that he played against Brighton and Hove Albion. I thought he was pretty dangerous and sharp, and he was making runs in field. And hopefully, Pulisic and Ziyech will start. I'm not. Lampard mentioned that Ziyech is not going to start this game, but if he plays striker, Pulisic also takes away a little bit of focus on that side. And I saw the Germany game as well, and I thought him and Kai Havertz had a pretty good link up, and he looked good in that center forward position. So that's the reason why I'm tempted to punt if he plays center forward, which I'm expecting him to. But it's just that little 5% of trust against his manager. I don't trust Lampard as
yeah,
much.
I think Werner, like you said, in a few. I mean, we've all been saying it all along. When it all clicks, doubling down. You're hoping that he plays centre forward and all these players play, and then you're hoping he does something for the captaincy, which upside could be huge there.
Yeah, I see upside there because I see it to be a fairly open game. Definitely more open than the Liverpool Everton game. That's why I'm thinking about it.
Cool. Let's look at some of the. So one of the other players on here now is Richarlison. So we're expecting him to play. Ancelotti didn't really. He just mentioned there was no new injuries, but he didn't really touch on the players that went off in the last game. So hopefully he's okay. And I think they're going to try and field full as strength as possible against that Liverpool team. What's
Important game, full
It's
strength.
huge game.
They all play. Yeah.
Yeah. I like James Rodriguez. Some people saying he's not going to start because he's international. I think he will. He might get limited minutes. But Richarlison, right? He's 7.9 million now. Calvert-Lewin is 7.6. So they're getting very close in price now. Do you still think there's a good reason to go Calvert-Lewin over Richarlison?
Yeah, I think Calvert-Lewin is the better. In terms of the chances he's going to get, he's always going to get the bigger chances, and he's in form. So why fix something that isn't broke? Go with the player that's performing. He hasn't not scored in a game he's played in this season. So
boom, easy as that. I kind of agree, to be honest. I think it's a little bit overthinking. I still think Richarlison is a good option, but it's very hard to look past Calvert-Lewin right now. Last one we'll go for on this one is Trossard. So obviously hit the bar or hit the woodwork quite a few times against Man United. Do you like him and Maupay? Do you think one is better than the other one?
I actually don't rate Maupay as a finisher too much. That's why I prefer Trossard to him. And I feel like with Trossard, you get two outputs to getting points. He's created a fair amount of chances as well as he's had a few shots. And I feel like he's been unlucky so far. I'm actually kind of happy that I don't have the 0.5 million because I'd have moved on Podence and gotten either to Maupay, but that's because I also have a personal bias against Maupay. I don't rate him as a finisher. I feel like he always looks better than the player that he is.
Fair enough. Well, I hope you're wrong because I brought him in this week, and he's on penalties too.
That.
So fingers crossed he does okay. I think. Hopefully this game against Palace is good, but I think I've got my eye on that West Brom game at home as well in game week 6. So fingers crossed that comes across. All right, cool. We will leave it there. Any closer to deciding on Salah Werner captain?
I don't know. I'm hoping it's in a good way because the last year, whenever I got in the Scoutcast with you, it led to a huge green arrow at the end of the week. So I'm hoping that works out this week. So whichever way I go, I am expecting it to work because I'm doing this Breakfast Club show with you.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, I'd love a big green arrow as well. I'm a little bit, I mean, with the -8, I think I would just be happy for any kind of green arrow, no matter how big it is. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, thanks very much for joining us today. Everyone in the chat as well. So if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. We're here every single Saturday when there's a game week deadline. So make sure you hit subscribe as well. And what else is there? Oh yeah, we're doing a Scoutcast match day at 12:30. So Gianni and Seb will be on for the Liverpool versus Everton game, which, as we mentioned, is a pretty damn big game. Especially if Everton can get the win. Imagine that, 5 wins out of 5, and you've got one over on Liverpool. That would be huge. Pranil, thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Andy. It's been great.
And we'll see you again this time. Actually, not this time next week. It's Friday deadline. We'll see you soon anyway for another video. And like I said, Scoutcast match day later. Cheers all.
Cheers. Bye-bye.